It's the Legacy Choir, live in concert, Sunday, February 16th at the St. Stephen Baptist Church, 1018 South 15th Street. Come out and worship and witness our city's jewel, Miss Wilma Claiborne, honored for her contribution to gospel music. The Legacy Choir, live in concert, Sunday, February 16th at St. Stephen Baptist Church. Hey church family, here are your church announcements. Here at the Stephen, we're still preaching the gospel of financial freedom, and we've got a workshop just for you. And it's absolutely free. Introducing the Dave Ramsey Financial Peace University. It will run from February 18th through April 14th from 6:30 to 8:30 p.m. on our Southern Indiana campus. Again, this workshop is absolutely free, and you can register today at ssclive.org. We like to consider ourselves trailblazers here at St. Stephen Church, and this time we're taking it even higher and including the Louisville Orchestra, presenting Gospel at the Symphony, the Encore. This historic event will feature the Louisville Orchestra and the St. Stephen Baptist Church combined choirs on Sunday, February 23rd, 6 p.m. on the Louisville campus. Tell everyone you know we want to pack out the house. Our Kingdom Kids Ministry presents the Historic Wax Museum of Excellence, honoring Black men and women who have paved the way from the past and those breaking barriers today. This will be held on Sunday, February 23rd, on our Louisville and Hardin County campuses. Louisville and Southern Indiana will host a combined exhibit in the Family Life Center gym. This is the last week to sign up, so be sure to sign up in the concourse with the Kingdom Kids or contact Courtney Cleveland Broom at ccleveland@ssclive.org. Hey, married couples, don't forget to sign up for the 2020 Annual Marriage Retreat. This is a wonderful opportunity to fellowship with our married couples and receive a pouring into. The theme is Music of Marriage, and it will be held on Saturday, February 15th. You can register online at ssclive.org, click on Get Involved, and then click on the Marriage Retreat link. We hope to see you there. Women's Day is coming up next month, and ladies, the Women's Ministry needs you. They're looking for some committed women to help with fundraising, strategic planning, and the birthday club. Leadership meetings are held every third Saturday at 1 p.m., and Women's Fellowship is held every second Saturday at 1. To get involved, email sis@ssclive.org. That's sis@ssclive.org for more information. Sermon series The Young and the Restless is simmering here at the Stephen. We've enjoyed each of these topics so far. And on the fourth Sunday, the final Sunday, Actors Theater of Louisville will be our special guest. They'll be doing a live demonstration for us about the sit-ins. So be sure to join us, Actors Theater of Louisville, on the Louisville campus, as the finale for Rev's The Young and the Restless series. Well, that's all I have for you this week. You are now up to date on all the happenings going on here at the Stephen. To stay up to date, be sure to check us out on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, and download our app in the App Store. Now let's continue with worship. Be blessed.
What's up, everybody?
What's really good, everybody? Welcome to Millennial Monday. I'm your host, Cory, and then we also have the fabulous
Ryane. I'm back, y'all.
So most certainly super excited about today's lesson. We have our top 4 things, and then we'll jump into it. 5? We got 5 things? Okay, cool.
Happy Black History Month.
Happy Black History Month.
We haven't been on since.
I know.
I don't know the dates, but no, I don't think we have been on since.
Yeah, I think it was January the last time we was on. So listen, happy Black History Month, and most certainly do not depend on your school system to teach Black history. You most certainly do that at home because it's so important for us to know our history.
Yeah. I'm HBCU repping always.
All the way, right?
Always.
Let's go. So, happy Black History Month. The other, what else we got?
Four things.
Top 4 things, top 5 things, all
Yeah,
right?
top-
So we got the Happy Black History Month. Then we also have the father-daughter dance that's coming up this weekend.
Get out there.
Listen, this Friday is going to be amazing for the Indiana campus. Get your tickets. If you haven't got them already, time is running out. Get your tickets. It's going to be awesome. I was talking to Sister Tracy, who's one of the people who's over it. She's getting all the centerpieces ready, and it's going to be a fabulous time. So most certainly do that. What else we got? We have the Legacy concert that's coming up this weekend.
It's gonna be bomb.
Hey, it's gonna be great. Listen, the
Boom.
Legacy brings that heat every time, so most certainly they bring that heat, right?
They want the smoke.
So make certain that you're in the place. It's gonna be awesome. So I know that Reverend Kevin James, he's got them ready, so it's gonna be awesome. We'll certainly do that. Then we have the Dave Ramsey class for folks who want to get their finances together. Last month, Pastor was talking about staying on top of your finances and walking through that Dave Ramsey class and making certain that everybody has their finances together, man. That's going to be great. You can definitely find out more information about that on our website at ssclive.org. If in the event you need more information on it, reach out to Ryane or I via our email address, if you will, and we'll get that information to you. Sorry, I'm stammering. But the last thing I want to talk about, we said the top 5, the Census Bureau is hiring. And the reason why that's so important is because of the fact a lot of these jobs are knocking on the door, going around talking to people and making certain that people are counted. The reason why, personally, I think that's so important is because who better to represent our community than us?
Yeah.
Right? Because if you have somebody else who's walking through the community, maybe they don't have the same heart as you. Maybe they skip a door and they're like, I ain't messing with it, ain't nobody home. But if we are in our own communities knocking on our doors, we know who lives there. We know, to make certain that everybody is counted, because the census is how the appropriation of funds is appropriated.
Absolutely.
And so hey, listen, that's really, really important. 2020, make certain that you are getting your census in there, and if by chance you're looking for a job, the hours are flexible. So definitely, if you need any more information on that, get at us. We'll get that information to you. And then also, St. Stephen's is doing a census of our own. So if you haven't got your up-to-date information in, please make certain you do that. There are forms at the church. Please fill out those forms so we can have the information we need to get in touch with you. Cool?
Cool.
All right, that's our top 5 for today. So we're going to move right into our lesson. Before we do that, we're going to pray. And we're going to talk about, what does God want now? So if you didn't make it to Sunday school this weekend, this is a great lesson. So we're really excited about it. So let's pray. God, we thank you for your love. We thank you for your grace. And we thank you for your spirit and blessing us to be in this place. We thank you for your lesson. And we ask, God, that you would bless our hearts to be open to receive it. Bless our minds to be able to know what to do with it when we receive your word. And we'll be ever mindful to give you the praise. Bless Ryane and I to be able to speak to this lesson in the fashion that you would have for us to do for your people. It's in your name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Cool. So we're talking about, what does God want now? And we're looking at Micah, Micah chapter 6, verses 1 through 8. And just kind of like to give a precursor or disclaimer really around Micah. Micah is one of those books in the Bible known as a minor prophet, but he has a major message. He was really concerned. He had a very high, sensitive passion for the little, the left out, the least, the lost. I mean, he wanted to make certain that everybody had a voice. And you'll see that in his text that he was inspired to write. And we'll see that today. And it's almost like God is calling court, and he has the judge. He's the judge. He has his jury. We're going to walk all through this. This is pretty awesome. But the reason that we wanted to start here is because of the fact, oftentimes when we look at what's going on in the world around us, we could become disheartened when we think about our criminal justice system and things like that. And at the end of this, what we want everyone to walk away with is to know that God still sits on the throne. He's still in control. And just because the American criminal justice system doesn't work for everyone, God is still on the throne. He hears our voices, and he sees our cries, he sees our tears, and we find our confidence in this. Also, one quick note before we jump into the lesson. When we jump into this, the Bible is not speaking directly to America. This is a reference. So we're looking at this, we're reading this. This is our interpretation of the events that's going around. This is not God speaking to America. And sometimes we can take this position where, see, God is talking right here in America. So wait, let's pause for a second. Keep it in context. But when we get through this, we'll be able to see the parallels,
Yeah.
and we'll really be able to draw a really good interpretation of what's going on here. So, all right, let's do it. What does God
Let's do
want
it.
now? Looking at Micah chapter 6, verses 1 through 8, and the scriptures read, and it says, "Hear what the Lord says. Arise, plead your case before the mountains, and let the hills hear your voice. Hear, you mountains, the indictment of the Lord, and you enduring foundations of the earth, for the Lord has an indictment against his people, and he will contend with Israel." Verse 3 says, "O my people, what have I done to you? Have I wearied you? Answer me." Lastly, we'll go with verse 4, and then we'll come back. "For I brought you up out of the land of Egypt, redeemed you from the house of slavery, and sent before you Moses, Aaron, and Miriam." And so, quick pause real quick just to dive in and talk about the text. Basically what God is doing, as you see in the text, he's calling his witnesses, he's calling the jury, he's calling the court to order, and he says, listen here, plead your case, and let me share with you what it is that I have against you. Here's my charge against you. Here's my indictment against you. And God is really calling folks to the carpet. And he's speaking through Micah to a specific group of people. He's speaking to, at the time, the Hebrews, the Jews, the ones in which came from slavery, from Egypt. I mean, he's speaking to this Israelite clan. So this is why we wanted to make this disclaimer and talk and say the framework that the Bible is not necessarily speaking directly to America and only considering America, because sometimes we can take that interpretation
And run with it.
But
all these narratives are universal.
It's
That's
universal.
what you have to remember.
Yes, because if we're not careful, we'll take our interpretation of what goes on in America and we would try to apply it in a universal fashion, and it's not the same in third world countries where, how can I tell somebody in Africa or in Korea or in some other place where communism is present that, hey, name it, claim it, frame it, God will bless you. I mean, it's so let's be careful, right? So here in this text, what he's talking about, what God is really speaking to through Micah is saying, listen, I've got a charge against you. And he asked the question, what have I done to you? What have I done to you that would make you want to stray away so far? What have I done to you that would make you want to act in this manner? We're going to see in a little second what it is that God is calling for his people to do. And when we take that and understand what he's saying in the text, we can take that interpretation and lay it over to say, what is God calling us to do today? All right, so
Today.
back into it, verse 5, he says, "O my people, remember what Balak, king of Moab, devised, and what Balaam, the son of Beor, answered him, and what happened from Shittim to Gilgal, that you may know the righteous acts of the Lord." Verse 6, "With what shall I come before the Lord?" This is the people's response. So check this out, because in their arrogant response, look at how they respond back to God. They say, "With what shall I come before the Lord and bow myself before God on high? Shall I come before him with burnt offerings, with calves a year old? Will the Lord be pleased with thousands of rams, 10,000 rivers of oil? Shall I give my firstborn for my transgression, the fruit of my body for the sin of my soul?" In verse 8, "He has told you, O man, what is good, and what does the Lord require of you, but to do justice, love kindness, and walk humbly with your God." And the reason that's not crazy is because here God is saying, listen, what have I done for you to act in this way? And then the response is, what do you want from me, right? And then they start offering things in which they don't even have. They offer thousands of rams, 10,000 rivers of oil. They don't have that. But it's through their sarcasm that they're acting and responding in this way, because they are defensive when God says, listen, I'm requiring something of you. I need something of you. So we're going to dive into this text a little bit further to look at how this relates into social justice and ensuring that everybody has a fair voice. Because remember, Micah had a affinity for ensuring that people who did not have a voice had a voice. So when we look at this, what we see is the court case. we see the court case. We see how that's how, he called the court, he called the jury, he called everybody, and he's walking through. When I say he, I'm talking about God. He's walking through, and he's talking about, here's my case, here's what I have against you, here's all this other stuff.
That's a trial I would not want to be on.
Right. That's totally a trial, because when God is speaking, how can you respond? I mean,
You don't.
How will you how will you respond? So he's calling him to the carpet. He's saying, listen, what have I done to you for you to act in this manner? So you have the court case. But then we talk now about
the indictment.
And when we think about the indictment and we think about like what it is that God is accusing them of, they are totally guilty. They're totally guilty. There's a term that goes into where you talk about indictments and when you talk about the jury, it's called jury nullification. And jury nullification is when, regardless of the amount of evidence that is piled up against you, the jury totally disregards that and just says, they're innocent anyway. And in some cases, that happens
absolutely
in today's society. I mean, when you think about what Dr. Cosby preached on just this Sunday in the case with Emmett Till, that is exactly what happened. Regardless as to how much evidence was stacked up against the people that were on trial, these men
got away free.
Walked away. Nothing happened. Let's bring it even further, right? Let's talk about Trayvon Martin. Regardless as to how much information is stacked up against, let's talk about what Eric Garner. You was talking
John. Like 2 weeks ago.
You can just keep on going, and it's those kinds of situations that will make you feel like that the criminal justice system doesn't necessarily work for a specific group of people. But when we look at the text and what God is saying, what does God want from us now? I personally believe that what God wants from us now is to really speak up for those who don't have a voice.
To be advocates.
To be advocates and to be champions of change. Because in this situation, God is speaking to his people and saying, what I am asking for you to do is to do justice, love kindness, and walk humbly with your God.
And that's so simple.
It's simple.
We complicate everything though.
But it's simple. It is simple when you are willing to let go of your ego and let go of the power structures that are currently at play. Because if I have had the advantage of having all of these different privileges, it's kind of hard for me to say, sure, y'all let that go. I don't know.
I feel that, yeah.
So you have the indictment, and he says, what have I done to cause you to act in this way? And what God is wanting from us is to do justly, walk humbly, and be kind to one another. Yeah. Love kindness, brain part right there. But when it talks about love kindness, it's talking about having mercy. So justice and mercy going hand in hand, right? So when we're talking about justice and mercy, you can't do it no better than how our God does it. Because there are so many things in which we deserve. Like, there's so many things in which we just, and God holds it back because of his mercy. He keeps it from us. But from a justice perspective, if God was to allow us to really get what we deserve from a justice standpoint, we would really have, we'd be in some trouble. So when we have this inquiry, it talks about how have I worried you? How have I wearied you? How have I troubled you? How have I worried you? How have I, and what God is asking is, what have I done to cause you to act in this manner, to take things in your own hand? Because what was happening during this time is same as today. Again, you see the parallel. There was a group that was in power. There was a power structure, if you will, that was set up, a system whereby the people who were in the upper echelons, they were doing well. And the people who were at the lower portion of the totem pole, they didn't really necessarily have a say. It was easy for them to become enslaved. And not only would they become enslaved due to their credit or due to the fact they couldn't pay their bills, but also there are laws in this time. Jews had laws where it would say after 7 years, then you would have to forgive the debt. And then if at the year of Jubilee, you would have to forgive the debt totally, and therefore they would totally be set free and they would be a free person. Well, in some of these cases, there were people who were working years and years and their debt was never being repaid. So they were oppressing people. They were creating a system to continue to oppress people. And you see the parallel again, in the same space. So God is asking the question, what have I done to make you act in the same manner? What have I done to make you really continue to act in this way? Don't you remember that I'm the one that brought you out of Egypt? This is the same thing that the Egyptians were doing to you, and now we're doing this to one another. And I just pause right there, because when I think about that reality, the fact that we're doing this to one another, that really hits home with me, because there is no program, there is no policy that can be written, there is nothing that can be done from a government standpoint that can make me change my mind and how I feel about my own people. And if I feel like this certain group of people, because of where they live or because of their economic status or whatever, if I feel that they're lesser than, and I look like them, and if I feel that, then I'm not going to do what I know I can do to help this group or to be the best I can be for this group.
It forms like this level of elitism.
Exactly.
Yeah, as if like you would be the exception.
Exactly.
Although you're one and the same.
Exactly. And when we think about the history of where African Americans start here in America, now understand that our history predates that, and we come from colonies and clans and tribes that were royalty, and there's so much more history beyond that of the slave mentality of what started in America. When it comes to the reality that all of us came through this same system, now some of us have got up, some of us got a little bit of money now, some of us, are doing pretty decent. And what would be great is if in the event I gave you a hand up, not necessarily a handout, right? I'm not just giving you money just to give you money, but I'm helping you out. Like, we're working with one another to help each other out.
Yeah.
But more often than not, what we see is when folks get into a certain status, they look for ways to take advantage.
Absolutely.
Because I know that you need. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna open up a business where you need, right? So I look at it. When you ride around and you just look at certain situations, I look at how many check cash in advance places are at certain spaces and where they're not. And I look at how certain restaurants are in certain places.
Liquor stores.
And liquor stores. I rode through the West, just for example, and I was like, so where is the nearest Starbucks? Like, where can I go and get a cup of coffee?
I would love to get some Starbucks.
So what if a black-owned business opened their own coffee shop and had a drive-through, whatever the case? But no, you know what's in the West?
McDonald's. Lots of them.
McDonald's, Taco Bell,
Family Dollar,
Dollar Tree, Dollar General. I mean, seriously. Here's the funny thing, right? So one thing's about what is this deal that's going on? The Muhammad Ali track and field, Norton says sponsored a great portion of it. Where are the hotels where these families are going to stay when they come into this neighborhood? There isn't one, right? So when they come into this neighborhood and they watch and see all these people running and they have the great track meets, guess where they go to sleep, and guess where they go to spend their money, and guess where they go to do all the stuff? It's not down here in the West, someplace else. Where's the restaurants that they're going to shop at? Where's the retail space for them to shop at? They're not shopping at City Trends. Like, seriously, I mean, come on.
You just offended 10 people.
I mean, seriously. And it's not to be offensive. It's just the reality. Like, when you think about the fact of where am I going to go buy some shoes from? Where am I going to get my track cleats from? Where am I going to go get my jerseys from? Who's going to be doing all this stuff? Where's the economy that's going to keep this thing going and keep the money vested into the community that really needs it?
That was good.
That was great, right? Hey, man.
Boom.
We own one. We bringing that smoke. But no, seriously, it's bringing that smoke. I mean, it's one of those situations where when we think about the reality of what does God want from us now, it saddens me that some people think that it's only policy that changes things. And one of the things that what really changes, and dare I say, America and the perception of America is when a group of people stand together. You want to know why Trump got acquitted?
Tell me why.
A group of people stood together. They wouldn't break rank. And even, I'm not saying that every Republican agreed with them. They didn't. I know some folks that are diehard Republicans and they cannot stand him. But
They weren't gonna.
they wasn't gonna break rank. They still voted for him, and they will vote for him again. Why? Because they stuck together. And what bothers me sometimes is when I think about our history and the history of us as a people, you know what made the civil rights so strong?
Us.
We stood together. You know what made the bus boycott so great?
We couldn't do it today.
We could do it today.
Well,
We actually
it would
could.
be hard, but yeah.
We actually
We have to
could.
break through the mentality that we have of not sticking
That's
together.
it.
Yeah.
That's it. And if we stood together, that is the thing. And gosh, I wish I could really recall it the way that Carter G. Woodson, the father of Black History Month, the way that he said it, but I'll paraphrase it. And basically what he said was, so long as the person who is oppressed has to, and he spoke directly to the African American, he said, so long as the African American has to be fed by the hand that keeps him in the ghetto, he will never be strong enough to get out of the ghetto. Mm-hmm. And he wasn't necessarily talking about a specific place. He was talking about the mentality. Because imagine, right? So let's think about this for a second. Whenever a single mother decides, you know what, I don't want to be on the system anymore. I'm gonna go get me a job, and I'm gonna build my skill set up. She goes and gets a job, and as soon as she gets a job that's making a decent amount of money, the first thing that happens is they snatch the benefits out from under her. Well, she's not making a wage that is going to be good enough for her in order to sustain both the family and also. But as soon as I try to get strong enough to give me some legs under me, I'm going to snatch it out because I don't want you to get out of this system that I've created because I need you to be in the system. That's why the caseworkers got a job, because I need you to stay in this. I mean, it's just so many, which brings me back to the point. What does God want from us now? Love humbly. I mean, what does it say? To love humbly. To do justice, love kindness, and walk humbly before God. What that means is, listen, y'all, we've got to love one another. Love one another beyond our differences. Love one another beyond looking at somebody and pointing a finger and saying, well, the reason that you're in this situation is because. And you may absolutely be justified in your saying that, right? Totally. But what if we could stand together strong enough to the point where as single mothers didn't need 4 C's? What would that look like? What would that look like if single mothers didn't necessarily need to have to go get WIC and have to go and get on the little waiting list in order to get these little shoddy houses that people don't even really want to keep up for real, but they do that just from the perspective, and they charge you god awful amount of rent, and you stand in this little house, they won't even come fix the leaks. What if we could change the narrative to the point where, as sure, reparations would be great, but I'm not going to wait for reparations in order for me to make certain that my community is taken care of. We're going to stand together. We're going to do this thing. And what's going to happen when you see us doing this, then you're going to start talking about, let's do some reparations. I was listening to NPR radio, and I know I'm just rambling. Listen to NPR radio, and they said that now they're going to start, FBI is going to start a task force on white supremacy.
Oh, good.
To look at it. But good.
Good, yeah.
Here's the reason. Here's not only is it interesting to see how they did this, the reason why. The reason why is because not that black people were getting lynched and beat up and done all this stuff. The reason why is because you had Jews that were getting and Muslims and different groups. And it's horrible on any specific, on anybody. That is not what, but so long as black people were dying, white supremacy wasn't a thing. But then when other people start getting attacked and when they really start seeing it on other spaces, when the Jews start getting attacked, then it really hit, because now they're like, wait a second, that's legitimate. So what I'm saying is the reason that folks can look at that situation is because the perception of that specific group is looked at as being higher than that of the African American female or the male. And the reason that I personally believe that is, and I know that we can change it, is if we decide to stick together, I mean, we can change that mentality.
We really can.
We really can. We don't have to worry about hollering about Oscar's so white. Look, forget the Oscar. Let's keep on moving. Let's do our own thing.
Some DeMarcus's.
Let's do some DeMarcus's. Right, you know? So, I mean, there are so many things in which we can do that can validate our own presence. We don't necessarily need to be validated by another group of people in order to be. We're great. Absolutely. And not only are we great, we're resilient. Because in spite of systems after system after system working against us, God has blessed us to be able to stand not only to help build this country and fight in every single war, but also to be able to have swag when we do it. And everybody wants to be like
Everybody.
Oh man, listen. So all right, we've gone on. So point two, I'm sorry, rabbit hole. Point two was the heed our history. And so when we're speaking about this, and we go right back into it, this exploitation of the poor, the rich getting richer, the walls to keep out migrants, immigrants, and the working poor, and veterans living on the street, no jobs, and not understanding their benefits, so therefore not taking advantage of the health care and different things like that. I mean, all of this plays into the point of what Micah was talking about, because he was really speaking to what has made you so callous that you would turn on your own people. Because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what skin color you are, we're all American, which is very interesting. When you go to France, you don't hear, rather, somebody saying, well, that's an African Frenchman.
Yeah.
It's just French. When you're in China, you're Chinese. When you, I mean, it's everywhere you go. Only in America is there this delineation of people to say you're African American. And of course, the reason that was done was so that there could be this, keep you in this.
Separation,
this separation of power. But God is asking the question, what have I done that made you act in this way? Sure, our country was never founded on the belief we was going to be this melting pot of immigrants, and we were just going to be a whole bunch of people that work together. That was never the premise of America. You know, so let's not kid ourselves to believe it. But now that we're here, now that we know better, we should do better.
Do better.
That's the reality. So heeding our history and understanding our past and what God is requiring us to do, what He's asking for us to do, is for us to look out for each other. When you think about homelessness and you think about all the different things in which are happening, it's not necessarily a situation whereby when you think about homelessness and everything that's happening, it's not a situation of there's not enough money in America to be able to take care of our homeless and different people like that. The issue really is if we're willing to do the work.
Yeah.
If we're willing to do the work, because we got it. We got enough to be able to take care of everybody. So all right. So as God is speaking through this, He's talking about the court case, and I really feel like I'm rambling, so I really apologize for folks who are on there. But we get to the crux of the text, and it's talking about the real requirement.
Yeah.
And justice is not the same as equality, because equality presumes that all persons have equal standing which to receive aid.
Have you seen that meme? Well, it's not really a meme, but it's like a little graphic, and it has like a fence and like three people, and they're like trying to watch a baseball game. And so equality like shows the difference between equality and equitable justice.
Okay.
And so each person like has a block that they're standing on to like look over to the fence. But
Right.
one person is in a wheelchair, one person is really tall, one person can see just right above it. And so that's equality, where they all have the same treatment,
Exactly.
but they still can't all see the baseball game over the fence. And so the next picture was equitable justice, and it shows like 3 building blocks for the person who's shorter, and then no blocks for the person who's really tall, and then a
Right.
block for the person who can see right over, so that there's a balance and that they all have the equal opportunity to look over the fence.
Exactly.
I thought that was cool.
That is a really cool
Yeah.
explanation of like equality and what that really means, because like you said, there are some people who not only are they really tall, let's stick with that analogy, but they also have a block to stand on to give them an extra leg up.
Yeah.
And what about the person in the wheelchair? They can't even stand
Yeah.
up. So how does that work? So I love that. That's really cool. I love how when we talk about that reality as far as equality, when we think about that, it's not the same as justice, because equality assumes that everybody's on the same level playing field. And that's not the case. There are many people who have started off at a lower space. There are some people who got to stand on the shoulders of others, and man, they run forward. But then there are others who have to start from the ground up, and dare I say, pick yourself up by your own bootstraps or something like that. But that's the case. So there are 2 words in Hebrew that speak to justice. And we're almost out of time, so we're going to try our best to at least get through this space right here. There is misfat. And misfat is the most basic meaning, which means to treat people equitably, to treat one another in an equal fashion. Our lesson says it means acquitting or punishing every person on the merits of the case, regardless of race or social status. So equitably. So when we're speaking about the justice system, if a white person comes into and they're being charged with, let's just go with drugs. Let's just talk about crack cocaine, if you will. And one person, if they got cocaine, they only get a year. If you got crack, then you get 15 years, 20 years, something like that. I mean, however that situation plays out. And what we're talking about here is in misfot, it's saying that we treat every situation in a equitable fashion. Now, I'm not going to get into the legalities of what's the difference between crack and cocaine. I'm not trying to do that.
We can say that for next week.
We can say that for next week. But what we're saying is that per the lesson is what God is really hoping that we would really do is that we would start looking at every person in an equitable fashion, that we would really try to find a way to not only just lock somebody up, but rehabilitate them so that they could be a productive citizen in the community. So there's misfot, but then there's also sadiqwa. Now, sadiqwa is another word for justice, and it refers to day-to-day living in generosity and equity. And so it's pretty explanatory there. I mean, just day-to-day living, just being generous and ensuring that the blessings that God has blessed us with, we look for opportunities to bless somebody else. Mm-hmm. And that's hard. And the reason I say that that's hard to do, because many people get comfortable in their luxuries. Mm-hmm. And it's one of those situations where it's easy to do, right? Yeah. I mean, I mentioned Starbucks the other day. Like, there's somebody who's saying, who goes to Starbucks? Coffee is too expensive. I mean, it's just that reality that some people just get caught up in their luxuries. I mean, we buy cars that can park themselves. We do stuff and we buy this stuff and it costs so much. And the thought comes back, like, what else could we have done with that if we would have thought differently? Like, we buy these houses, 7 bedrooms, and there's only 2 people that live in a house, you know, and what else could have been done? So that's what God is really asking us to do, is to dial it back a little bit and think about what can we do in order to be a blessing to somebody else. Yeah. And I love how we've changed our offering from dollar to make a difference to blessed to be a blessing, solely from that reality, because God has blessed us to be a blessing. Like, I'm standing beside this superstar. She's about to go off to this amazing college, and we're going to look, and she's going to be, gosh, I don't even know. To even say something is probably to limit her greatness, right? To even say she's going to be president, man, that's to limit. She's going to be even greater than that. But I mean, the reason that I bring that up is because as God has, oh, no doubt. Yeah, I'm serious. When I think about how God has blessed you, and not only your greatness to be so smart, but also your greatness to inspire others, God is giving you that so that you could turn around and be a blessing to somebody else. Absolutely. So super excited.
Same for you.
Well, pray for me. Yeah, pray for me. God's still working on me. How about that? But so the last thing that we want to talk about is kindness, and as we talk about this reality is. In the text, it talks about that the 3 things that God is really requiring for his people. He's not requiring for us to do something that we can't do. He's not wanting all of our money. He's not wanting all of our talent. Mm-hmm. That's not what God is asking for. What God is saying is, listen, here's what I want you to do. I want you to be a just person, to be merciful, and I need you to walk humbly. I need you to be willing to submit. So when we talk about mercy, we talk about kindness. The first point says that many Christians believe that justice is strictly misfot, and the punishment, the wrongdoing, period. And that's what many people believe, that it's all about just they did something wrong, punish them. That's cut and dry. And what God is saying is, listen, there's more to it than that. It's more to it, because oftentimes when we think about kids in school that fight all the time, it's easy, right? They fought. Suspend them, send them home. They're a troublemaker. But you may not know that they're probably homeless. They probably haven't ate a decent meal since lunch yesterday. There's so many other factors that go into the point of what drives people to do certain things. And I'm not saying that crimes are to be, looked over and glazed over and don't punish anybody for anything. But what God is asking for us to do is to consider the whole picture, that it's not just cut and dry. Look, it's misfot. They've done something wrong, to punish them. He's saying, listen, be kind. But then when he talks about walking humbly, what he's really speaking to is this understanding that we can't do this on our own. We have to be willing to submit to God as he is Lord over our life. And if he's not just Savior, he's also Lord. And in the same way that Jesus humbled himself in the Garden of Gethsemane and said, God, not my will, but thy will. That's what God is asking for us to do. He's asking for us to be humble. He's asking for us to be kind. And he's asking for us to be just. So when the question is asked, what does God want from us now? That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Easy.
And you know, show up at St. Stephen's when we have our Valentine's Day dance and when we have our legacy concert and when we have church coming up on Sunday because Pastor's preaching this amazing word. So you definitely don't want to miss that. But listen, we out of here.
Howdy.
We done. We ain't got nothing else to say. We love y'all. Thank y'all so much for joining. See y'all next time. Yeah, we got some more
Adios.
paper.
That paper did good.
See y'all later now. Thanks again.
Peace. I was scared I was going to pass out.
Oh my gosh, it did get